Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're just going to wait till everybody gets on, but want to welcome everybody to the Journey into the Sacred webinar series. Yay! So we're just going to wait a minute for people to start popping on, and we'll get started. If you're here and you can hear me and you can see me, just go into the chat and let me know. Hey everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello everybody.
We're just waiting for a few minutes in order to let everybody pop on, but I wanted to say welcome to the Journey into the Sacred webinar series. If you're on, hey Danielle, just you can put your name in the chat so we know that you can hear and see us, so that we know that we're not talking to the air. That's always fun. Hey Sethi. Hey Pam. Yay, 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 yay. Okay, great. Awesome, everybody. Marcella, greetings. Carolyn, hi. Yay, okay. So we're gonna wait just for maybe about 30 more seconds for people to pop on, and then we will start. It's such an amazing night. For all of us, I'm gonna light some sage to get us started. We'll do a little virtual smudging. Woohoo! Some saging. All right, guys. Hold on 1 second. All right, everybody. So what I want to do is I want to start with an opening prayer and a calling in of all the helping spirits, because this is the journey into the sacred. Hello, everybody. Hello, Megan, Allison. So what I want everybody to do is to just take a moment and close your eyes. And I just want you to get still. And I want you to just tap into your body, tap into your breath, and just notice how you're breathing. Just notice the natural rhythm of your breath. And I want you to begin on your next breath to begin to breathe in on a count of 4. And just really slow your breathing down and making it very conscious and very intentional. And just notice what's going on in your body. Just tune into your body. Notice if there's any emotions. Notice if there's any discomfort. And then when you continue to breathe in on a count of 4 and exhale on a count of 4, just allow your body to get into a rhythm. Just allow yourself to slow everything down. And I want you to imagine that on every exhale, you are actually releasing everything from the day, everything from the week. And just keep releasing. And keep breathing in and out. And then I want you to just stay centered and stay grounded in your body. And I'm going to invite us into a little prayer. Dear Mother, Father, God, Divine Holy Spirit, guardians, angels, ancestors, and guides, universal energy, Mother Earth, Father Sky, and all there is. We know you as universal truth. We know you as light. We know you as everything sacred and everything good. And I'm going to invite you into this space, so that everything that needs to be revealed, everything that needs to be healed can come up to the surface. I let it be so, and so it is. So welcome, everybody. Yay, it's a great place to start. So hopefully everybody's feeling a little bit more grounded in their bodies and a little bit more present. And what we're going to do now is just going to introduce ourselves to you guys so you know who we are. I'm Suzanne Hanna, I am the founder and creator of the Wilderness Walk Experience. And I am super excited to be here with you guys. For me, the journey into the sacred is actually the foundation of everything. For me, it wasn't until I really learned how to connect to my higher self, to my God self, was able to really call in all of the universal energy and support and abundance that is there waiting for us to show up, that I was really able to start to align a lot of amazing things in my life. And so for me, it affected my relationships, it affected my work, it affected how I felt internally, it affected what I drew into my life. So for me, this is the foundation of everything that is vital for each and every one of us if we are truly wanting to live in alignment with our own personal truth. So welcome. Carolyn, what about you?
Hello, everybody. I'm Carolyn McKinley, and I'm a therapist and coach and intuitive healer. And I really want to speak to why it is that we really wanted to share this this class on intuition today, because it's really been my experience that the main reason that people come to me is because they have been trained to deny, ignore, repress their own knowing in some shape or fashion. And we've been taught to do that since childhood, to look outside of ourselves for the answers, which made sense to us as kids because we were dependent on other people for our well-being, to take care of our dependency needs. And so aligning with what they believed was important or necessary was just a brilliant adaptive strategy for us to take on to survive. But there's always this little voice of noise inside of us that knows what's true for us. And we just have to be encouraged and empowered to really listen to it and follow it. The voice of our intuition, I believe, is our soul speaking to us. And when we listen and we embody that, it becomes wisdom. So this is what we're going to be talking to, diving into the whole topic of intuition, how it's really vital to help us align not only with our soul, but to live it, to embody that and bring it out into the world.
Yes, 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 yes. So I think that some people may be hearing a delay. Carolyn says there's no picture for you, Carolyn, just so you know that. They can't see you. So I don't know if there's something wrong with your video, but they cannot see you. So just so you know that.
Okay, I'll play with that.
Okay, good. All right. So to get started, one of the things that we wanted to talk about is that we really wanted to focus on tonight as part of the first part of the series of the mini quest is really identifying what are our individual blocks and resistance to the divine, because many, many, many of us are not even aware of how we are creating roadblocks to the connection. Because really, I heard this amazing thing, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit later with Marianne Williamson the other day, about how we are all kind of lamps. And it's really up to us to choose to plug in. And if we do not plug in, then we do not become conduits. We have to plug in. And that's a really important piece of this journey, because that is something we choose. It is not something that, you know, happens automatically. We actually get to choose to plug in. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about are some of the blocks that we create. And one of the biggest blocks that I have seen that we have created, and I have done this so many times in my life, is the block of busyness and distraction. And the truth of the matter is we cannot hear anything if we are constantly busy or constantly distracted. So it's really, really important that we create space to get still, because without that stillness, we will just be responding to a lot of noise, a lot of internal noise, a lot of external noise. And so it's really, really important for us to create that space. Carolyn, did you want to say anything specifically about distractions and busyness?
Oh my goodness, it's just epidemic, isn't it? It's like social media, just like we are in a society of we're suffering from infobesity. It's coming out at us all the time. There's so many ways to distract ourselves. And again, it's training us to look outside of ourselves for information, for how we should think and feel and act. And it's really troubling. And so that's another reason why I would love for people to learn how to tap into their own knowing. It was there from the beginning. If you want to know the answers, all you have to do is look inside. But, you know, again, we've been trained to not do that in deference to somebody else's opinions and advice. So I'm going to pop off and see if I can come back on with the video. And so if you want to talk more about the blocks, I will be right back.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So the other thing, the next one that I think is really important for all of us to notice is time. And time sort of goes in with the busyness and our ability to distract. So it's really, really important to know that this is the number one excuse why people do not create space in their lives for some type of creation of a relationship with something greater than ourselves. And what I have said, and I was talking about this with somebody today, the two most important things that are the foundation of everything in our lives, which is our spiritual foundation and our self-care. And those seem to be the two greatest things that we all struggle with. So, and the two greatest things that we don't spend time on or don't create space for. So that is a really, really important thing to notice. If you find yourself saying, I don't have time, I'm too busy, I've got a lot going on, it is something to really look at, because it is taking you out of, it's not bringing you towards, it's taking you out of the experience of building a connection that will bring you closer to everything that you desire. And the next one I wanted to say is all about unexpressed emotion and stagnancy inside of us. And this is a really important thing to notice. For many, many of us, accessing emotion is not an easy thing to do. We have really, really struggled with accessing or even identifying what we feel. So it's really, really important to know that if you have a hard time or you struggle with accessing that, because emotions are just energy in motion. They need to be moved. And if they're not being moved, then they are staying stuck and they're staying stagnant somewhere in your body. So that is a really important thing. The next one, which I think is also huge, is unhealed shame, anger, and resentment. Huge, you guys, really, really big. Because if you have unhealed shame and unhealed anger and unhealed resentment, what I mean by that, all of those emotions are normal and a natural part of the process. But at some point on your journey, they need to be addressed. They need to be looked at. They need to be excavated, because if they are not, they are just laying dormant and they are staying stuck in your body and they are wreaking havoc on your health and on your spirit and on your connection. And if you can think about it, it is literally a wall that stands between you and your connection to everything that you are looking for and everything that you want. Caroline, I know she popped back on. Did you hear what I was just saying?
Yes, I caught most of it, actually.
Yeah, we can see
Okay.
you.
Hello, everybody. So yeah, there's just so many different ways that we are we're prevented from accessing that deeper truth of what we know. There's, again, I don't know if you talked about safety and survival issues.
No, we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, well, that's actually going to be a conversation that we thread all the way through this. But I also wanted to talk about the other blocks that I'm aware of, which includes not only the collective programming, but our educational system is a big one in my mind, because it doesn't encourage intuitive learning so much as let's, just download the facts, everything that material that you need to know in order to get out of high school, go on to college or whatever, be a good worker. But it's just really always just about learning stuff and not necessarily how you know what you know.
Absolutely.
And I know that, okay. Another area that I look at a lot is that we are trained to look to science for the answers a lot. All this research that's being done. And by the way, I'm a big science geek, actually. So I'm not talking about, in fact, some of the research that's coming out that's really interesting to me is all about intuition and how does our body know these things before our mind is even aware of it. It's just super fascinating. But a lot of times we are talked out of our hunches and things like that because it's not hard fact again. How do you know what you know? Where are the facts to support that? Oh, that's fluffy. Oh, that's woo-woo,
Right.
So there's that piece too. And then also what I see in my practice a lot is the effect of the ancestral programming.
Yeah, I really want you to talk a little bit about that because I think a lot of people don't know exactly what that means. And by the way, I'm putting to the chat for you guys. We'd love to hear from you. I want to know what are some of your greatest blocks. The ones that we're mentioning are just some of them, but just as a way, because we want this to be really interactive. So we want to know from you guys, what are some of your greatest blocks that you have noticed to connecting to something greater? So what do you want to say, Carolyn, about the ancestral stuff?
Well, what I want people to know is that every single one of us, ourselves and all of our ancestors, have had a lot of different experiences. And in the course of our life, if we've had some experiences that were especially traumatic, that created a lot of fear or lack of security or something like that, then that information gets downloaded into our DNA for survival reasons, and it gets passed on to our progeny for that very reason. So these survival stories are buried deep in our DNA, and at least 6 generations deep or back. They'll get triggered by similar events in our life. It will literally just turn on this information like, be afraid of that, don't do that. That's not a good idea. For instance, let's just say that you want to be an entrepreneur. And I know a lot of you out there are. But in your family history, nobody went out on their own. They thought that was a really bad idea. And so when you start to go in that direction, you might suddenly feel really like uneasy or uncomfortable and start to second guess yourself. And it's because all those stories that are buried in your at the cellular level, they're starting to get awoken. There's like, okay, this is not our programming. This is not what we do. And if you don't know that you have that information in you, then you just start to act from the fear or the limited beliefs and programming.
Yeah.
So, and start to make decisions based on that.
Yeah, and I want to add to that because I think also part of our programming, which I think is a big issue, comes and stems from our childhood wounds. And I think that what happens is we are getting downloaded tons of information externally from the time that we come out of the womb. And I think what ends up happening very often is that these wounds then begin to take a life of their own. And I want to talk for a second just about the cellular stuff, because I think it's really important that everybody understand that every experience you have ever had in your life gets stored in your cells. So all of your negative experiences, or what we would call negative experiences, all of our positive experiences, or what we would call positive experiences, everything is stored in our cells. So what very often happens is that we may not even be aware of where or how we're reacting to a certain situation, because it's coming from a subconscious level. And I think that that's really important to know too, that healing has many, 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 many layers. And there are many, many, many layers of blocks. But the good news is there's ways to move through these things that are not as hard as we think that they are. And I know Carolyn and I are going to talk a little bit about that afterwards. But those are the main things. And the last thing that I want to say about blocks that I think is huge is the way that we react to our discomfort, to other people, and we then engage in self-destructive behavior. This is a really big one, you guys, because it is the way that we take care of our bodies. It's the way that we eat. It's the way that we might numb ourselves with alcohol or drugs. It's a way that we might tune out with television, or we might tune out with, other forms of distractions. But it's really, really important, because all of these things are creating that wall that I was talking about earlier. And if we're not even aware of what we're doing, we cannot heal it, because the first step to healing is acknowledgement. So it's really, really important that we are able to acknowledge. So many people are talking, Carolyn, about trusting their intuition, lack mentality, not having a paradigm to interpret information. These are all great. You guys are good. Relationships are one form of blocks, and feeling loved is another. This is all really good stuff, you guys. And the more you can recognize what it is within you, the better that you will be able to really release those blocks through the healing that we're going to talk about, and through the connection, and through this journey. So I want to lead you guys on a little experience. And before I do that, I want to tell you a brief little story that I talked to you about in the beginning. I saw Marianne Williamson the other day give a talk on Super Soul Sessions. And one of the things that she talked about, which I thought was so in alignment with what we're talking about now, is she was saying that how our bodies have such an amazing divine wisdom, that if we actually didn't create these blocks, that if we didn't have all these impediments, that everything would actually work effortlessly and in complete flow. So what she was saying is that, if you think from a cellular level, your body functions without you even knowing it. I mean, your heart beats, your kidneys function, your lungs function. And what she was saying is that one cell can say, you know what, I don't want to do this. I don't want to play along with this game. I don't want to, and the cell actually rebels. And she said how it gets other cells then to rebel. And then what you have is what we call cancer. And so it's really, really important to identify that that's exactly what we do. We become our own worst enemies, and we rebel against what we were divinely created to be. I am going to say that again because it is so important. We actually rebel and resist against what we were divinely created to be. So our job is to get to a place where we're more in flow, so that we actually release a lot of these blocks, so that we can be more in divine alignment, and that things begin to start to happen with much more ease and much more grace. And that's what we want to get to. Do you want to say anything, Carolyn, about that before I lead them through a little experience?
No, I think that was just perfect. I said it all, just like and well, I do want to say one thing about that, because again, I see a lot of clients with health issues, cancer being one of them, cancer being something that is actually rather slow growing in the body, but it can get really loud. But it's just usually what I see with folks is there's been just years and years in a history of negating themselves and their deeper truth. And like, this is the biggest wake up call. And I call it can serve, not cancer, because it really is like, okay, you know, time for us to get real, time for us to tell the truth, time for us to now focus on ourselves and not everyone else. So it's a great healer too. So
yeah, you just gave me total goosebumps when you said, you know, it really is a way that we distract ourselves from our deepest truth, and that all of our body is designed to wake us up. I love that you brought that up. All right, so what I want to do is I want to lead you guys on a little mini experience. So what I'm going to ask you to do again is I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to go back in. You've just identified all of these blocks that you have created, the ways that you negate yourself, the ways that you have created a wall, the ways that you have rebelled against your own divine truth. And I want you to just see what comes up in your body with just thinking about that for a second. But then what I want you to do is I want you to bring to your mind something that is happening in your life right now where you feel in some way, shape, or form that you are being called to something or called away from something. It could be either. And I just want you to bring that experience to your mind. And this is something, whatever you're being called to or away from, most often brings up or generates some sort of fear. And I want you to imagine that you were at a crossroads in a path. And to the left of that crossroads is a path where you know that you are not following your intuition. Remember, your body is very wise. So think about something in your life in this moment where you feel or believe that on some level, you know you're being called to something, but you're not moving towards it. That you are actually either stuck or you're in fear or some other block is being created that's not affording you the ability to move towards the direction of your desires. And I want you to notice what happens in your body as you walk down that path of not following where you're being called. Just notice what happens in your body. Notice what happens in your heart. Notice what happens in your emotions. Notice if there's chatter in your brain about it. Notice if there's tension. And now I want you to bring to mind, I want you to look to the right around that other path, down that other path at that crossroad, and I want you to bring to mind an experience where you have followed your intuition, where you have followed where you were being led or called to, where you had the ability and the courage and the strength to walk that path. And I want you to notice what's happening in your body when you walk that path. And notice what thoughts come to mind or what emotions come to the surface when you are following the path of a time or experience where you did follow where you were being led, where you did have the courage, where you did have the internal resources to go there. And I just want you to notice those two experiences, because the biggest question that a lot of people have is, how do I trust my intuition? How do I know? How do I know this is not my ego? How do I know that this is not something that, you know, I'm just afraid, or there's shame involved or guilt involved? And we over analyze it and we make it far more complex than it really truly needs to be. So I'm going to have you guys open your eyes now, because Carolyn's going to lead you in a minute into another deeper experience around what it means to have a yes and what it means to have a no when it comes to following your intuition. And Carolyn, I would love, because you gave me goosebumps the other day when we talked about the pie chart.
Oh,
And
yes.
I would love for you to share that with them so that they have an understanding of just how often we live our lives from a constricted and contracted state.
Okay, so I'm just make this super simple for you. Okay, here's my lovely pie chart. You've all seen these before. But when I'm talking to my clients about all the different possibilities, all the different ways of being that they could choose, I show them that most of the time we're living in this rather constrained version of ourselves. This is what we're taught to think and feel and believe, right? This is our conditioning. This is who you should be. This is what you should be doing. And if you stay within the safe boundaries of this, all will be well, okay? But what happens is that's not okay. That's not enough for people, and they become anxious, they become depressed, stressed out, or whatever. And so when they say, well, I want to expand my life into these other areas, when they come up against this edge, that's when the ego freaks out. It's like, no, this is the safety zone. But in truth, the safety that you're actually looking for, which your intuition is going to guide you to, because intuition is, again, your soul's calling. It's the soul's voice. It's going to say, hey, all the fun's out here, all the adventures out here. Yes, this is a risk, but it's inside of here where you think the safety lies. That is the bigger risk if you stay small, if you stay in that box. So just know when you're up against that, you're going to feel a little uncomfortable as you step into that great unknown. But this is where your intuition is going to guide you into safe waters or onto that safer path. It won't always be easy. I mean, challenges are what makes life kind of fun, right? But so that's just a way to look at it. How small is your piece of pie?
Yeah, I love that. And I love the idea and the concept that literally we live in an eighth of what we're capable of. And everything, Carolyn, around that unknown territory, that is where the magic happens. That's where the mystery lies. That's where we get to meet the divine. That's where we get to have all of these magical unfoldings. There's that old saying that when we leap, the net will appear. But the truth is that the divine can't do the leaping for us. We have to choose to leap. So if we're not willing to go away from what's familiar, then we never get to experience what's in that territory. And I'm curious for you guys in the chat box, what, for you, does that experience happen, that that you're living in that eighth, but you're being called to go into that rest of that portion? But when you butt up against that boundary that Carolyn was talking about, that we begin to start to feel all the discomfort. We start to feel afraid. We start to begin to question ourselves. We start to begin to wonder whether or not we're going to be able to survive in that, outer quadrant. And it's really, really important to look at, because that's where we become alive, you guys. That is where life exists. So it's really, really important. We don't want to live in that eighth place. But like Carolyn said, that is where we're conditioned. So we are here to call you guys all in to that outer quadrant where the mystery of the divine lives. And that is the journey into the sacred. So I love that. Carolyn, do you want to talk about how they can go even deeper on this and that yes and that no? And
Yep. Let's just do a little meditation on that. All right. So I like to keep things, again, really simple for folks. And one of the things that I do a lot with people is because, again, we've been trained to not tap into our own knowing to discount that. We live in our heads, I always say like the precipitous drop between here and here, the 18-inch drop. We want to get into our bodies to really understand our own truth, or how to know what we know. So I'm going to take you on a little journey. So again, there's many ways to tune into your intuition, and I think this is a really simple one. So go ahead and close your eyes. And we're going to access your body to give you some clear answers. And I'd like you to just tip your head forward slightly, like drop your chin down, tuck it in a little bit, because this takes the thinking brain offline a bit. Now I want you to just take a few deep breaths. As you're doing that, I want you to feel your feet on the ground, your seat in a chair. And now I want you to just center into your heart. Just drop in there. And I want you to call up a person or something that you absolutely love. And just imagine interacting with, playing with, being with someone you or something that you love. And now I want you to notice how you feel in your body. Just take a quick scan and just notice. Are you relaxed? Open? Does it feel light? What's going on in your body when you tune into something that you love? All right. And now I want you to think of something that you're scared of or repulsed by. Maybe that's a spider or snakes or something that you saw in the news. Now notice how you feel in your body now. Did you get contracted? Did you get tense? Did it feel heavy? Okay, so just toggling back and forth between that heavy, light, expansive, contractive. Now I want you to see what you get when you tune into the word yes. Just the simple word yes. And notice how that feels in your body. And if that's similar to the experience that you had with feeling into something that you love. And now see what you get when you call up the energy of no. What it feels like to say no in your body. What do you notice? And then see if that's somewhat similar to what you just experienced too when I asked you about scared or moving away from. So these can be really visceral experiences. They're very subtle and very light, but you should be able to feel the difference between yes or no. Now I want you to call to mind something that you're considering doing, some choice that you have to make, some decision. And try to make this a yes or no question. Like, is accepting this job in my highest and best good? Or do I stay in this relationship? Or do I spend money on this next class? Something like that. Just call up, bring to mind a question that you have. Now I'd like you to drop that question, whatever you need to decide, just drop that into your heart and ask the question from there. And just notice what you notice. What do you get? It should be quick. You don't need to second guess it. Your body just responds. It either expanded and contracted, it felt heavy or light. And if you felt some fear come up, versus this is a clear no, you can just ask yourself again, is this fear that I'm feeling? And just notice if you get a yes, that light feeling, the confirmation. And then what you can do next is just ask from your heart, well, what else do I need to know about this? And what is this fear about? What's fear asking me? What kind of support do I need to turn this situation into a yes? And then note that too. And then later you might want to write some of this down, journal about it. The main thing is that your body is going to give you some clear indication about what your best choice or course of action is. And you can always trust this, guys. And at first it might be a really quiet voice, but it will feel more and more solid as you get practiced with this, as you build up that intuition muscle. So now just take a deep breath and open your eyes and rub your hands together. So I hope that was helpful.
I love that. And I wanted to say, one of the things, because Norms writes, energy expands out with the good and retracts with the negative thoughts. And I think it's so interesting because what happens for many of us, and maybe you can say one thing or two things about this, is that when they come, so a lot of us get a yes, but in conjunction with that yes, there's what we talked about, rubbing up against that boundary, because there may be some fear attached to it in leading away from what's familiar. Let's face it, if we leave a relationship, we're moving away from something we know. If we leave a job, we're moving away from something we know. If we say no to somebody and we're afraid of disappointing them, we're moving away from something we're comfortable with. Do you want to say something, Carolyn, a little bit about when we rub up against that line, that boundary, when we're just about going into that beautiful divine mystery, that very often it's that line that stops us? Can you say something about that?
Well, actually, I'm thinking about your 20 seconds of insane courage that you talk about. Yeah. Because, I mean, there is, it's important to listen to your fear because or your ego, in a sense that it's trying to keep a sense of consistency for you. Right? Like, this is who I know I am, and I can predict the future based on who I know I am and all of that. So it's really not the bad guy here. It's not out to get you or anything like that. But it needs to take a back seat. It needs to take its hands off the wheel instead of driving your car, So it should be considered, but it doesn't make the final decision in what it is that you need to do, how to live your life. So often too, I want people to distinguish between what is really fear and which is coming from fight, flight, or freeze, from that response, which is just that a sign that your nervous system is dysregulated, and if your physical life is in danger, then you got to run or you got to fight. Or sometimes, in some cases, freezing is the best idea, but usually nothing like that is happening in this moment when you really stop and consider. So you want to take a deep breath, get centered, and then ask yourself, and however you do this, however you connect up to that higher self of yours, or whether that's in your heart, you imagine it up there, just like, you want to ask from that place, what is it that I need to do next? Because fear can also be sort of masked excitement in the body. It can feel the same in the body, versus the fight or flight response is going to feel very, very different. That's why I was trying to get you to discern what that feels like in your body, the clear no, the clear yes. Because fear will feel like, I'm up against that edge again, but it feels lighter, right? It feels sort of effervescent at the same. It's like when you're about to go off the 12-foot high diving board. You're at the edge and you're like, should I jump? Should I jump? And then you do, and it's fine. Okay. But if you really listen to or the stories in your head about what's going to happen and this and that, like, you're not going to take that jump. That's not going to happen. So it's mostly the stories that you're actually responding to. It's not the reality. If you could get yourself super present, is anything that is happening in my head happening right now? No.
Yeah, I always say to people, is it true? I mean, do you know that this is true with 100% certainty that that story that you're telling yourself is accurate and true in this moment? Because I think, and we could do a whole webinar about this, Carolyn, about how that triggers all those past wounds and, you know, ancestral wounds and all that kind of stuff. But what I also wanted to say about the 20 seconds of insane courage, and I love the fact that you brought that up, it's my favorite topic. It's really important to understand that, and this was one of the most liberating things that I ever learned in my life. So if you get nothing else from this webinar, I hope you take this away, is that when your desire for something becomes greater than your fear, then you will move mountains. And what I mean by saying that is, you know, when we really truly desire something, that is our spirits calling us. It's calling us home. And when you really desire something, and that becomes just even a nanomillimeter greater than your fear, you will move mountains. And I think what we're trying to tell all of you, and what we're inviting you to do, is we want to see everybody living in that outer quadrant and tapping into that 20 seconds of insane courage to take those leaps, because that is really, really going to be key if you want to live a life of aliveness. And, you know, Frank said something earlier that I just want to briefly respond to before we start to wrap this up, is he says it doesn't just freak us out, but those around us who try to keep us small. And Frank, absolutely, because just as you have lived in that 1/8, other people are accustomed to what you look like in that 1/8. So when we move beyond that, not only is that rocking our world, but it rocks everybody else's world, because they only know you. It's only familiar to them. So I think it's really important for us to ask ourselves the question, are we living based on what we desire, based on our truth, based on our spirits, based on our calling, or are we living based on what other people want for us, or how other people like to see us, or what it makes it feel safe for them and familiar for them? So that's really, really important, because we are here ideally for our own soul's evolution. That's what we're here for. So we cannot evolve in that one little space. So I want to start by saying, because most of you know that this is a webinar series, and we want to go deeper into this, because it's really important for you guys to begin to practice. What does it mean to build this relationship? Because that's what it is. It's a relationship. You know, we're not here, you know, to access something way out there. We are building a relationship with our spirit, which is connected to everything beyond. So this is really important, that's what this journey is all about, and this quest is all about. So we have 2 other webinars in the series that we hope that you will join us. If you know anyone else that you know might benefit from this, or who's on a spiritual path and wants to be able to move away from that 1/8 slice into the outer quadrant, please, please invite them, because the more people who follow where they're being called, then the greater that we are, and the greater that the planet is at large, and that's what we all want. So we are inviting you guys to continue to be on this journey with us. I'm going to take maybe 3 minutes to ask if you guys want to ask any questions before we wrap up, because I know that so many of you might have some questions based on this. We just threw a lot of information at you, and a lot of experiences at you. So if there's anything, well, I look forward to getting beyond the blocks that keep me from, amen,
Yes.
because that's what we're all here to do. we're all here to heal, and we're all here to grow, and we're all here to evolve. So yes, that's what we are here to do. And I do want to say, because I think this is really important, we can't do it alone. We cannot do this alone. That is the beauty of the collective. You know, I always say to people, we're born in relationship, we're wounded in relationship, and we heal in relationship. So the key that is missing for a lot of people is that we all feel like we do need to do this in isolation, or we need to do this alone. But we need each other, you guys. It's a really important part of the healing process. It's an important part of the journey. We are all mirrors for each other. So that's really important. Does anybody have any questions? Come on, Megan, Carolyn, I know you guys have some questions out there. So
yeah, and I will just add, as people are putting in
Elena
their
says,
questions.
cheers to the tribe. Woo-hoo! Nothing better than a tribe.
Yes, and Elena's built quite a supportive tribe, I must say, which I'm a part of, and I'm just so grateful. So, yes. Will there be a replay? Yes, there will be a replay of this webinar that you can watch, and we'll be sending links out to you if you sign that up with your email. Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
and
there's
we
the
will
power.
continue to repost for the future webinars that are going to be part of the series. But if you've signed up for this one, you will get emails about the other ones as well. So yes, there'll be a replay. You can listen to the meditations again. Elena, love you too.
Thanks,
And by the way, you guys, Elena co-facilitated the last wilderness walk with me, which was such a divine experience, and all of the wealth of information that she brought. And I am very, very honored to say that Carolyn is going to be assisting and co-facilitating and co-leading and co-guiding the next wilderness walk journey with me, which is all about going into the wilderness within you so that you can face everything that you have spent a lifetime running from, avoiding, rejecting, numbing, denying, because that, you guys, is the Holy Grail. If we can go into those places, then we can get to a place where the darkness no longer fears, we're no longer afraid of it, that we actually can learn from it, we can grow from it, and we can experience it in a way that is very, very different than we experience it in isolation. So yes, Pura Vida, baby. So we would love to invite you guys. I'm going to drop down this little offer for you guys so that you can look into it. This is the Journey into the Sacred, which is the next year wilderness walk journey that we're going to be doing. That's going to be starting in the end of September, and it is a 7-week journey. 6 weeks of it is virtual and online, so you can do it from anywhere. And then the last week is live in Sedona, Arizona, which is one of the most beautiful sacred spaces that there is. And that is where we can really integrate and invoke the divine. So we would love to have any of you on that. And we're going to offer everybody a special deal who's on tonight. Anyone who wants to sign up or get more information about the journey, please reach out to us. But if you sign up by June 1st, which is only a couple of weeks away, we're going to offer a 10% discount, which is a savings of $400. Which is a real nice chunk, which will buy your airplane ticket, which is a great thing. So we hope.
I'd love to see you all there. It's just going to be so juicy. And again, this is going deeply, like Norm, I think you were talking about. I'd like to be able to get beyond the blocks. That's specifically what we're going to be able to do in this 7-week adventure.
Yeah, we're going to be able to find and look at and face all the ways that we have been negating ourselves, and we've been creating that wall and living in that 1/8 space of the pie. Because this journey, you guys, is all about living in the outer edge. This is all going to be going into the mystery of that unknown space and really being able to connect to something greater. And to me, this is what gives me the biggest juice and goosebumps. I love this because there is a radical difference that happens when you go from living a life based on stories and ego and living a life that's based on expansion and unlimited possibility. So that's what we want to invite you guys to do. If there's anything else that you guys want to share, I would love to. Getting past, Norm says, getting past numb is fabulous. It can be fearful to expose self and group, the fear of being exposed and helpless. Norm, oh my God, you are not alone. So many of the women on this call could talk to you about that. Carolyn and Sethi and Elena and Megan, all these people can talk about what it means to be witnessed. There is such a power in being witnessed, because you will find that you are not alone and that we are all just mirrors. And, you know, all the things that I see in you are just parts of me. So it is a really, really important part of this journey and part of the process and a part of healing, because I honestly believe that we cannot heal in isolation. I truly, truly believe that. And I think that we try to, but we absolutely can't. So we invite you guys to go back, look at the replay, you know, use all of these meditations, really get in touch with what is your yes and what is your no, and really know that all it is about tapping into the courage and having your desire just be a little bit greater than your fear so that you can take that leap. And we invite you guys to do that. Carolyn, do you want to say anything in closing?
Oh, I'm just so thrilled that you joined us tonight and took a little deeper dive into knowing what you know, because that truth does exist within you. You know it. You've had it since you were a child. We've just turned it down a little bit, just again to fit inside of this little box, right? But what would it be like to live your life outside here? You know, eating the whole pie, just not a slice of it. So I hope you join us on the rest of the journey and the rest of the webinars, and excited to have you be along for this walk.
Yes.
Into the divine.
into the sacred, yes. Because I think that, you know, like we said, you guys, this is the foundation for everything in your life, your work, your relationships, how you feel internally, how you show up in the world. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Carolyn, Megan, all of you guys, Elena, Danielle, thank you guys for coming on. We love you. And we will see you guys on the next webinar, and we get one step deeper on the quest. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye.